Meantime, the U.S. government now officially shut down. This after federal funding lapsed at midnight, 12:01. Emily Wilkins was up at that hour. She joins us now with the latest from Washington. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Well, the big question in D.C. right now is how long this shutdown is going to go. The Senate did try and fail to pass a short-term funding patch last night. But interestingly enough, 3 Democrats voted with Republicans to keep the government funded. And Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he's hoping to get more today when the Senate will hold another vote to end the shutdown this morning.
There are people there are others out there, I think, who don't want to shut down the government, but are being put in a position by their leadership that ought to make all of them very uncomfortable.
Senator Catherine Cortez Masto was one of the Democrats to vote for the stopgap. She tweeted that she cannot support a costly shutdown that would hurt Nevada families and hand even more power to this reckless administration. She went on to say we need a bipartisan solution to address this impending healthcare crisis, but we should not be swapping the pain of one group of Americans for another. An estimated 750,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed in this shutdown, and Trump did reiterate yesterday that he does plan to follow through on firing federal employees and potentially closing some programs. And so, guys, the question, I guess, now is how long it's going to go, and for the White House, what are their next moves going to be? Andrew?
What do you think is on offer? That's the question. Meaning, what would have to happen to either pull some Dems? What would be the sort of necessary ingredients at this point?
So, Andrew, one of the things that I was chatting with some of my sources on Capitol Hill about yesterday is that in a shutdown scenario, the pressure just absolutely increases. I mean, that line from we're going into a shutdown to we're in a shutdown, you have folks who aren't getting paid, you have a number of programs that have stopped. It's like 1,000 little switches all turn off at once. And some of those switches you don't recognize maybe in the first day or even the first week what it means for them to be off. But the longer you go, the more pain there is. That means there's going to be increasing amount of pressure on these Democrats to vote with Republicans, because that's the plan for GOP leadership. They're going to continue to put this bill on the floor. They're going to continue to have Democrats to vote, and they're going to continue to put some of these Democrats, especially those from, say, states that are a little bit more purple, a little bit more swing states, to continue to justify their decision in keeping the government closed while the amount of risk and impact continues to ratchet up. So I think for every day that passes is another day that more pressure is going to be put on Senate Democrats to try to find a way to get to yes, or to accept that they need to reopen up the government without having anything more than they currently have, which is just a verbal promise from Republicans that they will work with them on these tax credits.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. And I wonder whether in terms of just that very idea, the pressure is going to ratchet up on them, but they're also not going to want to look like they did this for nothing. And so is there some little something that they're going to be able to walk away with so that they can actually vote for it? Or do you think they're just full on capitulate?
That's a really great question, Andrew. And I mean, obviously, Democrats went into this thinking that this would be a plus for them to shut the government down, either to extract a win from Republicans or at least, as they've said, show fight. But you're right. I mean, the given wisdom with these shutdowns is that if you're going into one, you have to figure out how you're going to get out of one. And at this point, I don't think it's very clear exactly what that is going to be. Republicans are also holding firm that they're not adding any health care provisions to this, that they're just not going to be doing it until we get past a government funding shutdown. And I think one thing to keep an eye on is honestly the polls that come out of this. What are the American people thinking? Who are they blaming for it? We've seen that move the needle before in D.C.
55 is, you'd never see that in the House, the Borg collective. I mean, that's you'd even call that a bipartisan attempt to pass the CR if you really were, if you wanted to say it, because there were actually Democrats. Of course, I think Rand Paul went the other way. But I don't think...
Two Democrats and an independent.
Angus King, yeah. But he's a Democrat, functionally. But that is... that's you'd call that signs of no, except for Rand Paul. But that's a crack. 55. I was surprised by that. So I don't...
55,
I don't think that portends good things. because they're usually
and
pretty.
Joe, we should note there was one Democrat who did vote in the House to keep the funding bill going, and there was one more who said that she was planning on doing so, didn't wind up actually casting a vote there. But, I think that was a huge thing to come out of last night, is that there is sort of a crack here that's forming with Senate Democrats, and it's showing that not all of them are comfortable owning what's going to be happening with the shutdown and owning what the White House might do next in terms of these massive layoffs that they've been talking about.
Okay, do you know where the most federal workers are employed, which states?
So Maryland and Virginia are two of the big ones.
And California is the biggest. Yep. So those three states, between them, have 6 Democratic senators. That's going to be putting a lot of pressure if this were to go on, if the furloughs actually come down, if the furloughs turn into more than temporary furloughs. It's going to put a lot of pressure on those 6 senators in particular.
Yeah, Becky, and we'll be watching those senators in particular. And also, I think you have to keep an eye on Nevada. You have to keep an eye on Georgia. You have to keep an eye on states and on lawmakers who are going to be running for re-election next year. Obviously, that's not every senator. They go a third, a third, a third. But for the third who are up and for those who are facing really competitive races, do they see shutting the government down as something that might impede their chances to get reelected? And do you see those members begin to cross the line and vote to keep the government funded?
Healthcare is something that it's a real issue for a lot of people, and the Democrats are smart in that respect. I don't think it justifies closing the government down. The Journal's got a great piece about some of the Republicans already showing some feet of clay about the Medicare reforms that were in the OBBB. They're already, indicating, yeah, we understand, yeah, we might because they were uncomfortable with the backlash of trying to rein in Medicaid at all. As minor as that was, just slowing the growth of Medicaid, so that might be where someone. I wonder, did Trump? I'm wondering about the 3D game of chess. I don't know if he really plays that, but he could snatch defeat from the jaws of victory if he really goes slash and burn on all the federal employees. Then that would drum up.
Will go into the economy too.
That would drum up support for.
The jobs market is the one area we're watching most closely.
Right.
That every market person who says they have very positive thoughts about the market, the one thing that they say they worry about is the jobs market.
But I think long term he'd like to close a lot of things, and he might not be thinking about his House colleagues in 2 years.
Or the 34 senators.
Yeah, there could be some big announcements near term on permanent firings.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's also the question on what happens down the road with those firings. I mean, Democrats have pointed out that some of the federal employees that were laid off by DOJ, Department of Government Efficiency, have been now called back to work and asked to return. At the same point, you've seen the Supreme Court pass down that sort of initial ruling saying, hey, White House, you do have more authority if you want to continue to lay off federal workers. They've opened up the door to that. So there has been, I think, a lot of questions when it comes to the courts, as well as just what needs to get done on any given basis. And when they fire folks, who are those folks? What role do they have? And are they going to realize in a month or two that they need them back? That's what Democrats are betting on with this. But of course, as we're seeing here, a number of them are less confident about taking that bet.
And both sides have issues where they can look in the camera and they can say things that are basically true, but seem like they're saying opposite things, but they're both a little bit right. Like, you can't, under federal law, cover illegal immigrants with health care, but you can have a state put it under their Medicaid coverage and get reimbursed from the federal government to cover the illegal. So they both get very vociferous and loud about, I'm telling you this is true, and they're just both exploiting sort of loopholes on where the actual truth is. So that's the poor public is like, I don't know what's true at this point.
I mean, Joe, I thought that was a good breakdown. I mean, obviously, with the Trump mega bill, we did see Republicans try to say, hey, we want to make sure that those who are getting Medicaid are the ones who, they're in the country legally, but they have green cards. They're immigrants who are going to be here for a while. So they did restrict the ability for some folks who are in the country legally but maybe have a refugee status or they're on one-year probation from getting a certain health care benefits.
There's more than that,
and
though.
So what Democrats want to do, they'd want to reverse.
In California,
yes,
it's
totally.
everybody.
I just wanted
California,
to add on.
it's 1.6 million people that aren't supposed to be here, with green cards or not, that we're able to. So they're not getting fed. They're not getting, strictly speaking, they're not getting federal funds. That's the you get the provider tax from the hospitals. You use that to cover the illegals, and then you get reimbursed 90% federally, but it's not the same dollars. But it's all, as Thune said yesterday, it's all fungible. Anyway.
A lot of complexities there, but no, I definitely wanted. There is definitely a messaging battle here, right? I mean, Joe, as you very correctly point out, I mean, both sides, they are trying to quote unquote win a shutdown and kind of walk away from this, showing their constituencies that they were willing to fight and that they should be able to have a boost going into these midterms. And I think it is going to come down a bit to message. And I do think, you know, it's a gamble on both sides to be in this situation where, as Becky pointed out, you could have thousands of folks laid off. You could have a huge impact on the job numbers. And we'll see how long this goes and how much the White House decides they want to cut from what you currently have with the administration.